Wardens trying to secure their spot in the SCC for phase number 2. The Xibalba Storm already heading off towards relegations, trying to finite their composition, make sure they can stay in as well. But I don't think anybody's focused on the future here. Everybody is in the moment and thinking about that game number 2, fresh in the minds of the Xibalba Storm. They're feeling the momentum. The Kaolin Wardens, they wanted to switch it up, and I think this comp is quite the interesting way to look at it to do so. I think the first question I had for you, you mentioned semblance of the same comp, right? And absolutely, you get some of that same global pressure. What changes though? Like what are the differences in what this rat does from the solo lane versus, you know, pairing with a Hebo now in the jungle? It's going to be a little bit tankier. How does that dive change?
Right, it really does change when your team is able to fight and how it takes its fights, because Ratatoskr in the jungle is an incredibly good early game character. It's something like the Serqet, like the Thanatos, where you load into the game and you're okay with fighting until the game ends. You basically get all of your items, you get that Acorn power spike, and you are more than likely in an even game the best character at fighting at that moment on the map. So it really does change as you go to a Hebo where, you know, Hebo, a mage, needs that scaling, has at least apparently enough damage early on.
Oh my goodness, he'll trade out at the very least. Briz able to take one back, but a first blood. That could not go better off the bat for Shortfuse after a rough game in game number 2. That's exactly the type of energy you need to slow down the momentum there from the Xibalba Storm. But hold that thought, you will continue on to Panic at burns the beads at the very least. That's exactly the start Shortfuse wanted.
And look, man, I've spent 5 weeks now talking about how Elyon is a momentum-based player in the jungle, and he loves to get aggressive early in the mid lane. And answering onto him specifically and preventing him from getting off to an early lead and instead getting the enemy jungler the same sort of lead that Elyon likes to play for could be the first nail in the coffin for the Xibalba Storm. And I don't want to say that it's all the end of the world here for them because, you know, we've made that mistake very recently, Frog, and I'd like to think we learned from that. But at least now you can confidently say that the Wardens are very happy with the start they've gotten off to. Serqet should 10 times, if not 11 times out of 10, be a better early game character than this Hebo and should be the one getting off to the early lead. So the fact that you're getting any gold and any XP to this Hebo early on is a very worthwhile investment, as Elyon looks to invade here, but Shortfuse at least around and will instead shift the focus over to the blue buff.
I want to tell you early on here, up front, Kaiser, okay, because I really want to be honest, okay? I haven't learned anything. I have learned no things from game 1. And in fact, after that first blood, I've written off the whole thing. I think this Storm may have lost this game already. But past that, right, we'll ignore that opinion just for the time being. And maybe even ignore the fight. It's happened on the right-hand side, forced into the ultimate. Relentless one takes over to 5 just barely at the right time. They're just needing the one minion, and they'll trade ult for ult. But that brings us over towards the solo lane. And once again, we get no teleport from Slash, instead choosing to go this blink. Already, we're thinking about the team fights. And with how slow the last game started off, I think Slash probably has the right mindset there.
And once again here, neither of the solo laners going for that teleport, as you point out there, meaning that all of the poke in lane much more relevant, and all of the poke in the team fight stage also going to be much more relevant. And you take a look at both of these compositions and what they're capable of, the way that they want to take these engagements, you're really looking at 2 poke mages, but Thoth is probably the premier poke mage that we've got in all of Smite. My guy is the epitome of an artillery-style mage, where he will stand halfway across the map, or on the next map over if you'll let him, and dump as much damage as possible from as far away as possible. And you're looking at something like Shortfuse, who wants to stay out of combat so that he can get the blink in. You're looking at something like got distracted by the action over here on left. You're looking at something like the Ratatosker that wants to sneak his way in and ideally get this blink second so that he can get a better engage off. It's going to be much more difficult for them to keep the health bars topped up and keep out of combat against something like this Thoth that is so prolific when it comes to actually putting out the poke damage.
Aggressive positioning from both of these junglers. Short Fuse looking for a potential gank on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, Elion finds a couple of buffs to steal away on that right-hand side. And I think that sort of begs the question. We asked it in game number 1, where are we going to try and focus through? Clearly, it might be mid here as I try to talk about a question. They start a little bit of action. Short Fuse walking in towards Briz. But so far, Elion has spent a good bit of time aggressive on this right side of the jungle, and he's totally off the mark with the first hit, but it's a perfect answer back. Both mid laner ultimates come out, and it's able to at least trade the jungler, and if Slash can, he'll make it a 1-for-1. Once again, the junglers, the only ones that have fallen so far. They'll change that as it comes out of my mouth, and Panda Cat will pick up a double kill. Kaolin Wardens get the better of the trade.
And once again, it's the semi-global rotation coming from the Kaolin Wardens to get them where they need to be. A True Story comes in there and makes sure that they can answer back onto Slash. And it's full stop a mechanical misplay there from Elion in the jungle. Yep. That is an opportunity that with best play, or honestly even with good play, should have been a kill, as we'll see another option here on the left-hand side. Griff gets the ult forced out, has all of the Xibalba Storm behind him.
No way.
And nobody, again, has the damage to kill him. Another mechanical misstep here from the Xibalba Storm. 2 and 5 minutes is not the start that you're looking for if you're a Xibalba Storm fan. They should have had a double kill in right, got 0, could have, I shouldn't say should have, because it's a little bit questionable, could have had a pick in left. That one gets away as well. Kind of feels like things aren't going as well as you would have really hoped for a team with as much momentum as the Storm have coming into this third game.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the early game advantage you talked about earlier. Serqet wanting to make an impact in this early game over the Hebo, to be sure. And that's something you may have been relying on. That's where we're going to bounce back early. Keep the vibes flowing, guys, right? Like, keep pushing forward with this amazing momentum we have. At the same time, though, you have to imagine... in game number 2, they hung around from 3,000 to 5,000 gold down. They hung around right in that spot for quite a while, right? And they had the mentals to come back into it. They weren't discouraged, right? So I'm not sure we're necessarily like putting a ton of weight on that, but it certainly would have felt better, especially, you're beating yourself up. That's 3 picks, arguably, that you've given away now at this point.
Right, and it does kind of hurt you, especially as a character like Serqet that wants to be this aggressive this early, looking for it here, but all of the Wardens are around.
Yeah, the global ultimate comes in, forces the last breath, and Short Fuse into the crushing wave, but Elion CC'd beautifully, and Short Fuse comes over the wall to secure that one. The final judgment, though, is in, and the poke comes through, but Short Fuse punishes again. He's in on the backside, he gets out early, comes back in for the double kill once again. The Warden's on top in the mid lane.
And you said we don't learn from our mistakes, Frog, so I'm going to ride that pony to the end of time. It full stop looks like Elion isn't going to be able to pull this one off. I said that in game 2, and I was wrong. Let's be wrong a second time in a row, because Short Fuse looked abysmal on the Najah in game number 2. He did next to nothing, had a bunch of opportunities where he just completely missed out on them, as we see a True Story getting very aggressive here, has a jump target, should be fine. Short Fuse
jumped to a ward?
No, he jumped to Griff. Griff stepped up and helped him.
Okay, I missed the dash away from Grip. He landed on a ward.
You're
sorry,
good.
Sorry.
Can I get back to what I was saying, Frog? I had a point.
Sure,
of course. Thank you for hovering that dash for us, production, which goes to allies, which does not include wards. But the point being, Short Fuse did not look good in game number 2. Leon looked like the MVP. Whereas here in game number 3, Leon is 0 for 3 kills and deaths and 0 for 2 on pretty crucial engagements early on. Whereas Short Fuse has been hitting from the word go. He is 2 levels up on a late game character against a early to mid game character in the jungle, and has been making these opportunities happen from the word go. And it's also been a true story who has been rotating back and forth across this map, a part of 3 of the 5 kills, facilitating for his team, whereas Peer Pressure has yet to find a way to get involved in this one. A lot of Smite comes from where do your roamers go? The jungle and the support are the 2 classes that typically roam around the map and try to create trouble on different sides of the map. And I'm honestly looking at the Wardens here. It's much more in the hands of a true story and on short fuse so far for being able to create positive opportunities on the map than we've seen pretty much at all from the Xibalba Storm.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to shout out True Story. We mentioned how difficult it is to come in as a support sub, both teams running with a support sub for this particular matchup. But a True Story has had supports banned away from him. He's looked good on everything he's picked up. And notably, in those 2 mid engagements, he wastes no time getting in there with the Horus ultimate. Already using that ultimate to great effect, and we're not even at like the highlight plays for that ultimate. We're not even at like the steal objectives point of the game quite yet, but he's already making his presence known early on. I will, shout out Peer Pressure. He did do a good job bouncing back in game number 2. Meanwhile, Short Fuse on a killing spree is going to struggle to see. He's still you actually stay trapped in the cage even after killing the Odin, right? So you still can't move. However crazy that is, but the action's not gonna stop as another ultimate comes in, and they're on to Peer Pressure this time around, but it's a True Story who gets collapsed on as Elion finds the last breath. The dash in, though, from Peer Pressure may try to find an answer back. Relentless One getting out at double-digit HP under the tier 1. Just one answer back, but signs of life from the Storm.
A little overzealous there from the Wardens, you could say. Like, maybe diving the tower on the full health support isn't your highest likelihood play to be paid off. That's the Captain Twig play style of the support is in front of me, so I'm using every cooldown I've got to try to get the kill. And it doesn't pay off for them there. And it is worth pointing out that because Peer Pressure on this Nox another mage as opposed to a more conventional guardian or warrior like we're seeing out of a True Story, that is usually your best bet for early aggression onto an enemy. Because mages don't have the same stats as the guardians do. They're much squishier. And with the build that Peer Pressure's gone now 3 games in a row, going this prophetic cloak into the Gauntlet of Thebes makes him a very good early target, because that's very good late game tankiness, but has to take a very long time to stack that one up. And until that point, you're basically sitting on, 30, maybe 40 protections total out of the build that Peer Pressure's got now. It's not the worst idea in the world to try to jump onto the support, but maybe not quite so deep into the tower, and maybe not when everyone on the Xibalba Storm seems to know that it's coming.
Aggression here. Short Fuse once again just doing a little bit of a damage check there, and takes half of Brizz's health just by using those 3 ultimates in his first 3 abilities. That'll open up the space for the Pyromancer, and with the first objective we're seeing this game goes down for free 12 minutes, I think a little bit later in the timer than we saw those first couple of objectives in game number 2. But Kaolin Wardens, similar to those games, they found themselves a lead. They seem to be holding on to this lead relatively well, and it's really on them to push the game forward. That's exactly what they're going to do under this tier 1 tower. Brizz burning both of the relics to try and stay alive, but Relentless One, he doesn't want to listen to the propaganda. He dives the tier 2 tower to take down the mid lane. The support will be traded out in the meantime, and Relentless One is turned around on, finds himself caught out, maybe went a little bit too far. It'll be a 2-for-1, and the Storm answer back.
And they've got now Slash hunting on the back end. Short Fuse ult forced out here. Can't get the last tick of damage, but Romold will be able to land it. Bitey gets a second one. Panda Cat takes down Slash here. So at the end of the day, it's a 2-for-2, call it a 2-for-3, because they also got a True Story at one point in that engagement, even though he's respawned here. And once again, like you said, Frog, it's the Wardens pressing the issue. They love this middle tier 1 tower and love to try to dive onto Peer Pressure specifically inside of it. Granted, in that engagement, they do end up getting damage off onto Briz, force both of his relics off, as well as manage to land the kill onto him. But it looks like all of the aggression is coming from this middle lane, which is a very good sign for Relentless One in particular, because it's kind of the Ratatasker's job to clear the wave very quickly, because you're an assassin and you do more damage than the average solo laner, and then make use of that mobility that you've got in the kit. If you just stay over here until 20 minutes into the game and you farm the waves and you beat up on the enemy solo laner, you're not getting full value out of this pick. The true value you get from the Ratatosker solo is you're slippery, you can proxy the waves all the way up here, then look for some kind of rotation into a much more meaningful fight on a different part of the map. And you can see the pings coming out of the map here as they know Relentless One cleared the wave between the towers. He's going to rotate back across to the left side of the map. And you can see they're already looking for him here behind the tower.
Yeah, I think definitely no surprise to see Relentless One playing like this. You mentioned the slipperiness, but what he will do is draw the members away from the Gold Fury. Joel the Storm are aware of this objective being pulled. They've got the final judgment potentially, but the Wardens take it away before he gets the chance, and Briz gets dove onto by Relentless One. An early beads and an ultimate coming to join him.
Hello!
Team into the back line, and peer pressure is next on the chopping block. He will get taken down by Short Fuse, and a beautiful ultimate from True Story. They take the objective and 2 members. They might even push down left.
Yeah, ATS is looking huge here, man. Like I said, the guy's looked good for a very long period of time, and I'm glad that he's finally getting his shot to demonstrate what he's capable of, because the Horus is cooking here in game number 3. And granted, a lot of that comes from, like you said, Relentless One attracting all that attention with the proxy farming, bringing everybody to the middle of the lane. But by the time that they reacted to him and sent everybody over there, the Gold Fury was already pulled. Bitey did try the ult, and it looked like it actually might have been pretty close, considering no Short Fuse ultimate utilized to secure that one. But it's once again the Wardens finally adapting to the play of the Xibalba Storm. All of game number 2, they were in the lead. All of game number 1, they were in the lead. But it felt like they were never fully confident in pulling the trigger, taking these major objectives, and essentially risking some amount of their lead on advancing their lead further. Here in game 3, after the performance they had in game 2 where it kind of stalled out, they eventually allowed the Storm to get back into it. That seems to have been a conscious change that they've made, to be willing to take more risks to advance the state of the game and make sure that they can get themselves to a bigger lead than they already had.
I gotta tell you, Kaizo, I'm gonna take a step back for a second. Okay. I cannot wait until we've done all this posturing, all this bandstanding.
Oh God, don't say it.
And then the Xibalba Storm win the game again.
Don't say it, man.
I cannot wait for that to be the case. It'll have to be maybe another Miracle on Ice here, and it won't come quite yet as the Kaolin Wardens continue to build their gold lead. They'll grab the Pyromancer, they'll hold on to that Runic Bomb, and certainly starting to think about the Fire Giant and about where it all went wrong in game number 2. And it's not a huge gold lead, right? Like, they're not, this is not a 99%er. Maybe it's a 60%er. Like, you know, they've got a lead. Like, they're holding on to it. And I agree with all your points. It feels better than it did in game number 2. They feel more confident in stepping up to these fights, and it's not some weird aura of how do we deal with this Giannis. But man, I've seen some things, Kaizo. I've seen some things, man. I don't know.
I've seen some things in my day as well, Frog, and I will agree, it is awfully hard to write the Storm out of this one, despite the pretty commanding lead at 18 minutes that the Wardens have. Like, look at what the Wardens are doing, man. They are calmly pushing down a tier 2 tower while their solo laner fights 4 people at the other tier 2 tower and comes out unscathed. And until now, Last Breath is going to catch the dash for Relentless One and finally answer back for the shenanigans that he's been putting down on the backside of this fight for the Xibalba Storm. But they are looking real good, even despite the fact that Relentless One falls. 2-level lead for the solo laner, 2-level lead for the jungler, And for the first time this set, actually, Frog, despite the fact that everywhere else seems to be going well, it is even between Griff and Bitey. Griff has been running it down in all of these games onto Bitey, but for the first time, pretty tame over there.
And surprisingly, it's, well, maybe unsurprisingly, it's on the Jingwei, right? You lose a little bit of pressure going from a Kurnos to a Jingwei, I find. That's just my experience. I'm not an expert, right? So only me, right, having that experience. But no, I mean, you bring up a good point, though. The Kaolin Wardens feel like they've got, a handle on everything they could possibly have a handle on. They've got the XP lead, they've got the gold lead. So then the question has to be asked, because we're getting to the point around these Fire Giant fights. What does the ideal Fire Giant fight look like from ahead, right? Because Relentless One is not going to keep getting away with this distraction tech in the backline. He just got punished for it, in fact. We're at the stage of the game where he can get punished for it, it feels like, right? What is the strategy going into these Fire Giant dances?
It is worth pointing out, Frog, before I go into this point, the only reason Relentless One dies there is he gets caught by a blink Serqet ult which canceled his dash, which would have gotten him to safety. He totally would have gotten away with it otherwise.
Totally.
But the ideal fight for the Wardens is structured as such. You have Short Fuse positioned deeper in the Fire Giant pit where he can successfully secure the objective if need be, and you have Relentless One constantly harassing Briz so that he can't charge up Final Judgment. Briz's ult is an incredible steal tool. It is one of the highest single instances of damage you can get in a game of Smite, especially at the range that you can cast it from. But it is mandatory that to get that kind of damage output, you have to charge it up if you're this Thoth. And I just don't see that to be likely, considering how much Relentless One has been getting away with. If he can get in, get close to Briz, make him uncomfortable, stun him out of the charge, go up into the Through the Cosmos, linger above him, prevent him from actually being willing to...
no! He dashes into 5! Thank goodness he makes it up into the ult instantly. Uses the beads. Dude, that got scary real quick. My man dashed, has no idea they're right around the corner, but that's going to burn a set of relics and burn the ultimate from Elion, importantly here, perhaps, as we try and set up for this Fire Giant. But taking those tools off of Relentless One is definitely going to be important, as he is a particularly important member of this backline, and that opens up a small window for the Storm. They pick up the Pyromancer, and now they are the ones that are holding on to one of these runic bombs. In fact, Shortview's already used his a little bit earlier, but we don't even have time to say how the fight's going, right? They're already onto the Fire Giant.
Yeah, they are going to go ahead and pull this one. Good damage onto Pure Pressure at the start, actually almost killing him entirely, forcing out the ult.
It's Griff and True Story pushing in, but look for the To the Skies potentially onto the backline. Gonna back off instead, and everybody from the Kaolin Wardens does not want to overcommit. Can be dangerous fighting into that speed buff. They want to take really the fight around this Fire Giant instead, especially as you get the back off from Pure Pressure, but instead, you're absolutely right, they back off. They had a small window there. I think they're looking for a big one if they want to pick that objective up.
Yeah, just a little too low. A couple of health bars, a little lower than they really need to be for them to pull that one. In particular, they had some low health bars on Relentless One and onto a True Story, who need to be pretty far forward in order to make these fights go the way that they need them to. Not to mention the fact that they're missing some pretty critical pieces of tech, as you called it previously, for Relentless One on this Ratatosker. He needs the beads very clearly to be able to dive into the Xibalba Storm backline. Anytime he lands from Through the Cosmos, he's immediately getting silenced by Pure Pressure. He's getting ulted by Elion. It is not an easy time for him to just land in and wreak his havoc. He needs pretty much all of his resources available. So no harm, no foul. It's not like the Xibalba Storm are going to be pulling this one. I mean, we've spent an hour and a half to 2 hours now watching them not pull objectives. Got plenty of time. Now they can pull it again.
Onto the Fire Giant they go. Short Fuse and Relentless One in the front line, and the engagement is onto the jungler. Traps him in the cage with a Phantom Shell. Allows the escape, and a true story is into the back line along with Relentless One and Griff, who's in there on the front line as Jingwei, and he's made a mistake. He goes in alone with an aggressive airstrike and loses his life. And Relentless One is now caught in the enemy speed buff as well. Things have turned around. The Xibalba Storm they get engaged on, and it's too much, too little for the Kaolin Wardens. They just lose Griff for nothing.
Yeah, I'll have whatever Griff is having, man, because the confidence required to step onto that to the skies with no information of what is actually going to be awaiting you there is so crazy to me. He's played so well so far this set, kind of a silent killer from the ADC role, but has been a very important factor in just about all of these fights. It's a rare misstep for him there as what I consider to be the best ADC in this whole entire SCC. It's kind of surprising that he's willing to just step on there, essentially kill himself off, but at least they don't have to lose out too much. Fire Giant half HP, everybody's back around.
Given a window for the Storm to pick this objective up, and it is at half HP, but they've turned their focus onto the fight for now, trying to poke a couple of members out. That's left Slash, though, maybe a little bit too far forward. Will get the jump off, and Briz is going to get the back off, but that may start the engagement here. Slash forced to drop the cage and will get out of there on thin margins. Remember, no teleport to bring him back to this fight. They're going to pick up the Fire Giant. This is dicey.
It is dicey, and Relentless One already into the ult here, actually looking for the backline, gonna land it.
Yeah, beads used, and he will bring the rest of the team with him. They've hopped off the objective and onto the front line. Bitey dashing away in a crushing wave into the back line. Short Fuse finds one, and Griff finds another. And they'll force the members of the Storm back out to safety. They'll jump over the wall under the tier 2 tower. They just needed to find two, and it could not have been a better two. The carry's down for the Storm. That's going to be a Fire Giant for the Wardens.
You said it perfectly, Frog. Ideal target prioritization there from the Xibalba Storm. They get both backliners. That's both of the characters that have any realistic steal potential on the objective. And that one goes down easy, man. And Short Fuse doesn't even need to find purchase with the ultimate. I don't think he actually hit anybody at all. The momentum of the fight was just carrying them so far forward that he uses the Crushing Wave as a gap-closing tool and finds the final tick of damage off onto one of the backliners of the Xibalba Storm. And once again, the Wardens just continue to play on the front foot very well. See Leon here trying to at least meddle with what Short Fuse has got going on, but the Wardens are on the front foot at all times. They are not bothered by the Odin Cage. In fact, there was no Odin Cage available there because despite the fact that full cooldown now available for Slash when you factor in the Warrior innate cooldown reduction that they get just from the class, he's already got 40%, but if you're getting it forced out as a defensive tool, that's one very critical component of this Xibalba Storm draft. Because don't forget, he can catch a Crushing Wave with that cage. He can reflect a Discordia apple with that cage. It's a big tool to be missing. And they might be missing a support too.
Peer pressure is just walking back to base in his own jungle and is unaware the Wardens push up and get a pick onto the enemy support, and all of a sudden it's a 5v4. They've got all the tools in the tank. They've got the minion wave, and they're ready to push in on this left-hand side. The Phoenix starts to shred down, and it will be taken down early on as Relentless One. He makes space in the back line, but he does not survive. It'll be a 1-for-1 and a bird for the Wardens.
Yeah, but his job is absolutely done there. He blinks in, uses the ult late, doesn't have beads available. He absolutely knows that he's dying for that play to get them the bird. So they're totally willing to trade out their solo laner's life to set up for a bit of an easier time breaking the base later on, making it more difficult for this Fire Giant to be defended by the Xibalba Storm, because don't forget, that was the left lane Phoenix that they took down. That's the farthest one away from that FG pit. So once these Fire Minion waves start rushing down the left-hand side, somebody will have to take themselves out of the fight to go back over there. No teleport for Slash, no semi-global or global rotation from Leon or anybody else from the Xibalba Storm, so they got to walk the old-fashioned way to deal with these minions. It's a very worthwhile investment for them. Only one solo laner's life and not losing anything on the back end of it to get basically your ideal position around this next Fire Giant pit. Well worth the investment.
Here's the thing, though, Kaizo. Here's the
Tell
thing.
me.
What if they win?
What if who win?
What if the Storm wins?
Stop saying that, Frog. They're losing. I won't take this blasphemy anymore. You're like reaching into the bottom of the barrel at this point.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it really could not be. They've done everything right? They've played SMITE 101 almost to perfection. They find the fights around the Fire Giant. There's no lingering mistakes. There's no small mechanical mistakes. They find the fights where they want to find the fights. They're not putting themselves at any risk of getting an objective stolen away, or at least they haven't just yet. And they've used this first Fire Giant pretty much to perfection. They take down all but one tier 2. They grab the most valuable Phoenix on the left-hand side. And now they're setting up for the enhanced Fire Giant. All the while, these waves pushing up on the right-hand side. And if I'm the Storm, this is almost at the do or die point. Like, I do understand that they've got waves pushing up, but it feels really difficult to me to not step up to the CFG.
Right, and it is going to be probably their best fight. I mean, Thoth is a very good anti-siege mid laner, but with the way that this game has been going and the way the whole set has been going, Frog, it feels like all of the X Factor potential, all of the steal potential, all of the ability to win this set after taking this last game is going to come from this enhanced Fire Giant pit. We haven't seen the Storm take some very convincing fights in the lanes, but every time we see these fights around the Fire Giant pit, something seems to go wrong for the Wardens. The Storm find the one chink in the armor that prevents the Wardens from playing comfortably. And that's really been the selling point of this whole set. It's been Elyon most of the time. It's got to be Briz this time around. They absolutely have their best potential to shift the momentum of the game around this EFG pit, which is why you can see the Storm at least tentatively stepping up toward it, because they know they don't want the lane fight. They don't want to let the Wardens come to them. They want to go to the Wardens. It's going to be even more difficult with with Fire Minion waves going into their base, but this is likely to be their best fight that they can take.
Yeah, they have to force something here. They can't keep letting these fire. They actively decide nobody backs. Well, now it's Elyon. As I say that, they will find the jungler backing, and I'm not sure that they'll be aware of it. The Wardens will be aware as soon as they see him on this wave, and they don't even wait for that. They're on to the Fire Giant, and it's falling somewhat slowly down to 75% HP. Blink in from Slash, though, starts the engagement as the Phoenix respawns on the other side. Elyon has left it. He's come over here to join the fight. They give the Phoenix up to try and fight around this Fire Giant, and the Kaolin Wardens just back off. They don't find the perfect engagement. They completely back off, and they're happy letting the Phoenix down.
Yep, they got what they needed. They just wanted the bird down, but now the Storm sends blood in the water. They're going to start pulling the objective.
Yeah, they stay on it, man. I would have liked that pull, right?
You were with me, though, right?
Yeah, Short Fuse was on the way back from base. He wasn't in range to protect that, right? It would have been Griff on his way back as well, but now we're back in the same spot. Kaolin Wardens letting the minions push up on the left-hand side. Titan, in fact, down to 75% HP or so. We're still fighting around this enhanced Fire Giant, though, as a little bit of poke comes through onto a true story, and the rest of the Growlin Wardens fall off of the Fire Giant. It's just this back and forth, and it feels like they have all the time in the world.
Yep, they've got all the time they could possibly need, because not only do they have the Fire Minion waves starting to stack in the left-hand side of the map, also on the left-hand side, if they can confidently and comfortably disengage from this EFG pit, Oni Fury, that's the word. Hang on, been a long night, Frog. Oni Fury, thank you, production, for hovering this one for me. I can read, believe it or not, is available on the left-hand side, and that would make that a much easier time for the Wardens to grab this Fire Giant pit. Fire Minions marching down left is a threat, but Oni Fire Minions marching down the left is a potential threat to the game being lost to only the NPCs. So that could be an opportunity they look for, but man, instead the Wardens just want to keep butting their head into this wall. They're going to pull the EFG pit one more time.
Helion clears the one fire wave in the Titan room, but they hop on the Fire Giant, so he's on his way back over, and this one is shredding down. They're on the objective. Relentless One does not get shredded down. He gets up into the ultimate, into safety, and the rest of the team is on the Fire Giant still, but it's Short Fuse who will fall first, and the Fire Giant is dangerously low, and the Shred take it away! A double kill for Elion, make it a triple, and miracles do happen twice. He finds a triple, the team finds the EFG. Lightning has struck twice, and the Xibalba Storm now have the reins.
This is why I don't gamble, Frog. I never gamble because it always doesn't work out for me. The Xibalba Storm should not be in a position to win this game, but they are marching down 5v2, only Relentless One and Griff to defend.
2v4 here under the mid Phoenix. Elion is back and a lot of damage being put out, but a huge ultimate comes through and Briz takes down the one that they needed. Relentless One has to perform a miracle of his own, but I'm not sure he has enough. He'll be outside the cage and they're doing damage to the Titan. It's down to 50% HP. They ignore him. True Story spawns. Slash falls. It's a do or die right now and they defend. They managed to survive at 34 minutes. Oh my goodness. They may perform a base race of their own. It's only Elion up for the Storm.
It's only Elion, and he's got to decide, does he go for the game or does he try for the defense? Looks like he wants to go in here onto Panda Cat.
Yeah, he has to do something. He's alone here. And True Story ults them all back. Oh my goodness, that slows down progress. That could be the difference in the seconds that they need here. They have to push through a tier 2.
They gotta
Only
get the bird.
20 seconds before these tanks spawn.
Comms are frantic.
Spawning.
The Relentless One team stepping forward. Phoenix has
No,
respawned and left.
They can't hit the Titan. They can't hit the... It's immune. They can't do damage to it. And Elion takes advantage. Short Fuse gets taken down early on. And Griff is just on the respawn. They don't even get the left Phoenix. They have to leave. And Elion has done it all as the Phoenix respawns at the perfect time. You could not script it better.
You cannot make this stuff up, man, as the Kaolin Wardens try as they might to end the game. Like you said, Frog, for those unaware, if you have all 3 Phoenixes alive, even if at one point one of them had gone down, you cannot deal damage to the Titan. Unless there was already a minion wave dealing damage to the Titan, preventing that protection from coming online, you cannot hurt the Titan. So the Wardens were hitting an immune object the whole time, and now it's the Storm, 5 members strong, with only a couple thousand damage on the Titan.
They're looking for it here in the mid lane, pushing down, captures True Story in the cage, but they'll get out of there scot-free. I say that, though, low members all over the place for the Kaolin Wardens, and another clutch final judgment comes through, and Briz takes the first one off the board. Relentless One is immediately turned on, and he dives alone and gets punished for it. The Storm have found new life in this game. They'll take down 2 and they'll back off. We're in store for another objective dance.
And the Wardens get to take a deep breath after that one, because for the last 2 minutes of this game, without interruption, both of these teams have been in a position where they felt like they could have ended the game. You said it exactly yourself, Frog. If it weren't for the fact that a True Story comes up and uses that To The Skies ultimate, bringing members back, that could have been the deciding factor on the Wardens not being able to make it to the Titan. And instead, the Xibalba Storm can't end off the last push, but still 10 seconds left on Griff, 15 on Relentless One. They're coming for the base again.
They're taking the risk. This Phoenix still has time before it's going to spawn, and they're in onto the Titan. They run all the way past all the members, and they get a couple of kills, but it's the Titan that falls, and it's so low. 2 members still on it, and they secure it. It's Kaizo! The Kaolin Wardens get knocked down to relegations, and the Xibalba Storm take game number 3. Bye.